Yeah. All right, fellas. Morning. We have Mark O'Sullivan. Again, good to see you, my friend. Rocking out that IAK tracksuit top.
How you doing? You good?
Yeah, not bad.
I'm just getting a text in here from the mother of my children. She's a nurse, and she says I need to pick the kids up now because it's crazy at the hospital.
Oh, so that's not good. That's not
yeah,
good.
I mean, this is kind of expected, but I think, yeah. But anyway, yeah, I'm fine. You know, it's been an interesting week at AIK since we last spoke, because basically not everything is shut down. Actually, our kids teams are still training. We're following the what is it? The translation from Swedish with People's Health Institute recommendations, and their recommendations should still, if they can, be out. But so what we've done, we're still having training, but no games, so they don't go and visit other clubs to play games. So that's the recommendations we're given. But another interesting thing is, of course, because there's the first team and the National League is cancelled in June. So there's, you're not going to put people in stadiums, there's games. And so there's a whole industry, I guess, around the first team affected. The youth section as well is also. So what we've all done, the whole club has taken a 7.5% pay cut. Players, managers, coaches.
Interesting.
For April and May, just to support the club. Because it is I think a lot of clubs are going to find this financially difficult at the moment. Because, the expected income you would have from a start of a season, etc., may not be appearing. Is not there anymore. And that's my kind of question to you guys, is that I was asking, because of my experience of being in Canada and being in Salt Lake City and a bit in America, is that there is very much, probably a bit more so in America, there is this economic model. And I'm wondering how our clubs, particularly those clubs that really, I think Britain mentioned it there, the under-7 Premier elite teams, where and parents are paying a lot of money for their kids to be in these elite squads or whatever they're called. How is that surviving? I mean, are clubs leaving people go, and will they just drop this for the moment and then just pick it all back up again when everything calms down?
Well, I think before we get into that, Britton, welcome first of all. From Utah. Yeah, I don't know, Britton. Do you want to start with that one?
I don't think any of them have figured it out yet. There's a lot of conversation between clubs. Everybody's wondering what the other club is going to do. But I think that without activity, it's really difficult to charge any money. And charging any money, it's really difficult to to pay coaches and to provide any amount of service. Some of our coaches are still connecting with their teams, and some of them are pushing the social media challenges. We've done a little bit of that, some daily workouts and everything, but it doesn't necessarily appeal to the players' motivation of why they're participating. So I think from this point, and it may change. I think we're probably looking at putting everything on pause, for a few months and trying to pick up again when we're able to start.
What about you, Mike?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're actually in a registration ban right now, so our indoor season's finished, and usually this is a period of quite aggressive administration because we're just collecting a lot of people that maybe are now coming from hockey, coming into soccer for the summer. Our registration is basically paused just because people do not want to separate with, their money, and rightly so. There's so much uncertainty around their jobs, their salaries. every single penny, I'm sure they're going to now be very careful to separate with. We have 5 teams right now that are an annual based program. Their program was put on hold. So, what we're doing with them right now is we are trying to kind of innovate based on the affordances that have been brought forward. So, we're engaging them through webinars. We've given them some things to potentially engage in, website forums where they can challenge each other and just communicate. But we're not going to charge for that. I mean, however long we're off the field, we will have to prorate that group's registration fees. This is more so us just trying to be good human beings, trying to recognize we're a part of these children's lives, and they've lost their passion, the thing that keeps them probably going from outside of school, and just trying to do what's best for them. And there's still hours being involved. I mean, like my colleague Kieran Collins has put some great content together, recorded that, we've put it online. We've created like interactive workbooks where the kids can fill it in, and then we can engage with them and just challenge their learning and understanding. But you do it just to do the right thing. So I was saying before we came online, Mark, I've just been doing some calculations now, bringing all the old calculator back out, and it's pretty daunting. I mean, our model in Canada, and I don't know if it's the same in Utah, but the summer is where we kind of financially fatten up. We're a non-for-profit organization. We don't make money, but we fatten up because the winter expenses are so high because we play indoors due to the quite aggressive winter. If we don't get fed in the summer, we're going to really struggle as well in the winter to operate. So
a non-profit organization means you can't make money, of course.
Right. I mean, we have reserves.
Okay.
That's financially the responsible thing to do. But I mean, our business model is based around the fact that winter costs significantly more than summer. So we bring in a lot of our revenue to operate all year round in the summer. So if we lose that and say, hopefully we're operating again in the winter, that's going to make it really difficult to get going. Yeah.
Britain.
Yeah.
Non-profit.
We are a non-profit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is that common in the US?
All clubs under US Youth Soccer, I think, have to be non-profit. At least in Utah, for Utah Youth Soccer, you're required to be a board-run non-profit organization. It's a little different. It's a little odd that they give this provision to youth sports, and considering that people pay registration tuition dues, to participate. So it's kind of a one-for-one business. But nevertheless, the decisions are supposed to be made in the interest of the kids. And I feel like the best way to do that is to make it nonprofit and board run.
Good.
So Brett, is that why you have a TV behind you? You sell that on the side to make extra money, eh? It's like bootlegging TVs.
Yeah, that looked dodgy. I was thinking that. I said, "Is this the right forum to anyone's private businesses?"
Yeah.
But has your government gone in, either as the government in the US or municipalities in the US or same in Canada, has anyone gone in with any cash injections into youth sport?
I don't know about directly for us. They are offering small business loans at 2.75%.
Okay.
For businesses that are challenged in making payroll, etc.
In Canada, there's a lot of federal programs that are being finalized now. I know that Parliament was suspended or was delayed last night because they can't agree on the bill, but the bill is there to help small businesses. Again, the details around all the different programs they're not easy to follow. I don't know if they do that on purpose, but there's a work share plan. So if I want to reduce hours of staff, there's potential, funding supplement that I can probably look to apply for. I don't think it's significant. We are I know that Brad at Soccer Nova Scotia here for the province, we're asking questions of the province. around, is there any support? Usually in the summer we have, provincial grants that we can apply for projects, but if we're no longer operating in the summer, there's a pocket of money there that I think we need to use based on the circumstances in play to maybe help non-for-profit organizations. Again, I don't know where that conversation's at with Soccer Nova Scotia, but I know that's some of the direction and strategy here, just to see if we can, not lose anyone in the shuffle here. But, at the same time, I don't know what your opinion is, gents. This is everything happens for a reason, and this is a reset of whether we like it or not. And maybe the things do need to go, and we do need to. Clubs do need to I don't know. I think that something is going to happen, and I think some positive will come from such a terrible tragedy, for sure.
Well, actually, I think that, speaking of government injected, the Swedish government have gone in with a lot of money into youth sport and culture, because I think under the understanding that something has to really definitely continue.
Yeah.
And especially when we get out of it, it has to be live and living.
Did you say, Mark, that was 100 million that they've initially put in?
I can't remember how much it was. It's a lot of money. Now, of course, spread out, it's less money because it goes to clubs and things, but it's at least something. And then the government has gone into paying bigger clubs like us, has gone into paying wages, health pay wages, and even as I said, all our staff is taking a step, and first team players are taking a 7.5% pay cut. So there is a lot of investment going in to try and stabilize sport and culture.
But you guys, I was over there with you, and it's clear that I find, well, it's my opinion anyway, you're way more advanced socially than even, Canada, which I'd say is quite socially advanced country as well. But you value sport and what it does and how it actually can take the pressure off the healthcare system. I don't think we're there. I don't think we're there in this country. We don't realize and value that, kids being physically active, mentally active, whatever you want to call it, will take the pressure off the healthcare system. In the Scandinavian countries, it seems to be that you guys have figured that out and you're willing to invest in that. I just wish that was the case in North America.
Yeah, well, it's a case of early investment, but then you can give even volunteer coaches a small amount of money, cover costs, whatever, even just a little wage. And then the idea is in the future you spend less on heart machines.
Yeah.
I guess so.
Yeah. Is that the same in Britain?
We have definitely not figured that one out.
We've had this conversation, Britain.
Yeah. We're a good example of self-organization.
Right. Yeah. Shame. Shame.
If you look to the left, you can see the wheels he stole from the bike that was just after.
Not because I should, but because I can.
It looks like, basically your room looks like stuff you found. You kind of just like stole from a local store from the street.
Yeah, you should see the computers I'm on.
Children do not do this at home.
So, Bretton, you had a couple of quite an interesting conversation topic that you wanted to explore and chat about. Do you want to share that?
Yeah, absolutely. Had it written down, but it's not directly in front of me. But we're under these new constraints, right? And the coronavirus is, more or less the constraint. Families are kind of isolated to activity between themselves, and doing things in confined spaces. I don't know many of the kids have a soccer pitch or goal with a net in this neighborhood. We've got parks, etc. But I see a lot being pushed around in the way of skills challenges. I see a lot being pushed around in the way of workouts of ball mastery. And again, these things are emerging as a result of the constraints. But I think when we look at the players' relationship with the environment and the task, we're looking at a motivational constraint. And part of that is going to be social. Part of that is going to be, the task, and it's probably the blend of all of it. So under these new constraints, what are ways that we can, kind of recreate these connections, the ways that the kids can maybe extract value in the environments that they're in, without being completely cut off from their friends and coaches and in the game.
Yeah.
Redefining how we communicate our ideas and interact.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's funny because I mean I've seen obviously the ball mastery exercises, and I think it's certainly worth. The kids are quite creative, and we've seen a couple of local ones through Soccer Nova Scotia that have done a challenge. Kids are trying to create something unique, and they're proud of that. And I think there's nothing wrong with that at all. I think we should certainly encourage anything to keep them, cognitively engaged in this circumstance. We've tried to, and I mentioned it earlier, as you said, just somehow get them to continue to learn and explore maybe the understanding of the game, and then how they can connect using some online tools. So for us, it was, here's a video, here's a workbook. You don't have to do this, but this is something we've provided for you. But then what we're going to do is somehow bring you together through a forum so you guys can socialize and challenge each other. We're not going to control that environment. We kind of just want to facilitate it and let them explore it and see where they go with that. We're still in, I think, day one. We literally started that yesterday, so we'll let you know how that goes. But that was something we tried to, because we do want them to connect. We do feel that's the part they're going to miss. And then there's silly little things. I know it's not something we always want to encourage, but we even did a very small FIFA 20 tournament where they were playing against each other and socializing. Yeah, and we set up an online system where they could see a table and their scores would get updated. And again, it's their passion. It's not the game, but it's something where they can still play the game in the conditions they're in and still socialize and be competitive. So just playing around with ideas like that.
That's
I don't know what the right answer is, if I'm being honest. We're just trying to do things, really.
Just trying to keep interacting with the community.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So with your forum, so private website, I'm assuming.
Well, yeah. I mean, to be honest, Britton, we use Teema. You must know like those websites. So Teema has a Team Talk setting on it. So you just basically put a message in, and then the kids can comment. And they've got the app on their phone, so it's not like they have to log into a computer. They can if they choose. And we're just going to see how it goes. We haven't created anything fancy. It's not our own, platform. We're just utilizing existing free platforms and seeing what the kids want to do with it. And I'm sure out of the 5 teams that are currently active, some teams are going to use it more than others. And again, there's obviously reasons why. Some are older, some are younger. We'll see how it goes. But we're going to offer it. We're going to try and stimulate them, try and, make them feel comfortable. I think that's part of the early stage, was they'll probably feel uncomfortable maybe because it's a setting they're not used to. But making them aware that, we're just connecting as people. We're just talking about the game that we love, and, let's do it.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're kind of promoting things through social media, and I don't know if that's the right forum. But one of the channels that we launched this week was TikTok. Kind of interesting. It's starting to date me. I don't feel like I'm very old, but I'm probably beyond TikTok. But yeah, we're like trying to catch up. I mean, I had a player in the summertime. We were at a tournament, and what's the little game where they have a ball and a stick? They're attached by a string, and they try to flick the ball up onto the post or whatever.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. So one of our players, there's some high-end malls and shopping centers there. One of our players, they recorded themselves, doing that game in front of Dolce and Gabbana and, all of these high-end design stores. he had 110,000 viewers in an evening.
Wow.
So I mean, like these guys kind of have it figured out, and I'm starting to feel like CNN trying to find a younger audience. But
So are you getting your younger players in the club involved in doing this then?
yeah, trying to encourage as much contribution as we can.
Great.
Our 2008 girls, Chelsea Astel's like very active with her team, and you can see they're juggling with both feet now, and it's something we haven't prioritized with in the past, but that level of engagement they're developing and publishing nevertheless. It would be awesome if I could get most of the content to be produced by the players. I think that would be ideal, and that would be the goal. We're not there yet.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen this one online? I think it was on Twitter. There's an Irish kid in his back garden. He's only about 10 or 11, and he's practicing goalkeeping with himself, and he's set it up so it's really cool. And it's end up now with one master thing. I'm going to come over when this is all over and take shots and practice taking free kicks against you. He's had David De Gea commenting and everything. So we're just wasting our time, really.
Yeah.
They have us well whipped and all this.
Yeah.
I worry a little bit that when we get to the end of this, that they, maybe have lost a little bit of the connection, the cohesion with their group. And I don't know if it's really valid to worry about it, but you see them all being in pretty terrible shape, especially our middle school, high school kids. And I don't think it reverses all of their experience, all of their progress by any means.
No.
But I worry that they're not really prepared, and that some of them lose, their engagement as they found other things.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I will say I do expect this to impact the registration numbers across the province. I really do. Because it's different to the affordance being offered to them. They're going to find new passions potentially that replace this one.
Yeah. Just thought of it, but probably 2 or 3 years ago, I came across this website, and it was, I want to say it was something to the effect of like the psychology of games, and it was more referring to video games. And I remember sending it to a few coaches, and them looking at, what the hell is this? But might be another resource to dig up at this point in time. Kind of more or less the principles behind game design.
Right.
As we know, they're facilitated through the software, but very self-led.
So yeah, I think there's something there that it's like maybe whatever we do, if we're communicating, say, with our young players, we have to create a platform so they can all continue communicating themselves independent of us.
Yeah.
That's the idea. I mean, that's was because when we were chatting, Mark, it was like, well, how much do we get involved here? We don't want to be, the sage on the stage through software. We still need to take the same approach and just here it is. But we have to nurture that, I think, in the short term because it's so new and they're all. The kids are kids. They may be judged if they type something that's incorrect. So you have to just keep nurturing that until they get comfortable in that environment, and then they will, I think, anyway, based on what we're seeing on TikTok and all that, they'll show you what they're capable of.
So maybe the challenge is with us, not with them.
Yeah, for sure. I would agree. I'd agree. I mean, and that's why I said earlier, like, I think this reset will lead. Who's going to solve this problem? Us, the adults, the professionals, to learn some lessons here, and who's going to, carry on or not change, and we'll see what happens with that one.
Yeah, it's a really. Can we develop a framework that accounts for now the the individual constraints of resources, time, interest, and motivation as well.
Yeah, but I think that if whatever we do now also should be something that can continue on and be still useful. Shouldn't be temporary.
Yeah.
It could be something that becomes part of, or what we call form of life, part of how the normal behaviors. I think.
Yeah. So how on another subject, how is just, I guess, your own countries right now with the current situation? Like, I mean, Britain, I'm unfortunately soccer. I'll watch CTV, which is a Canadian news station here, but then occasionally I'll chuck on CNN just to see the chaos right now. Like, how are you guys doing down there?
It's primed. I think it's primed for change. I think it is. I think it's primed for change. We want the freedom. And when things are going well, we don't care about safety nets. And then when things like this happen, we're like, well, what happened? What happened to the safety nets? Why don't we care?
Right.
So I don't know. I think this is kind of people. We're a huge country. We're not in India or China or whatever, but 350 million people, and we don't like to be told what to do. We want it our way, and but I think we're seeing certain market failures, and I want to be careful not to say that like a free market system is doesn't have its benefits, but I think total freedom in the market is kind of showing the downside, I think, at the moment. But it's probably not something that I'll be able to solve. I'm hoping that one of you two will figure it out, and I can just take a job wherever you're at.
I'm going to be moving to Sweden.
That's it.
I would where I think where things are just starting to kick off here. So I'd wait and see how this goes. I know Sweden is just taking quite an alternative policy than a lot of countries. We still have tried to keep the youth active or create opportunities while minimizing contact between people and recommendations of groups. I know Sweden has a tradition of trying to ensure that its population acts responsibly, takes some sort of self-responsibility for its actions. So I think they're really leaning heavily on this. However, times have changed in the last 20 years. It's become a very neoliberal society. So let's see. It's going to be interesting. I don't know. I don't know which way this is going to go. I just really, really hope that we can keep ourselves above water and keep this at a good level for a while, and then see ourselves through it. I'm not too sure yet. I don't know enough about any of this, so it's like
no. Well, I mean, it's funny. A couple of things, like I keep seeing memes on the internet that the Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau is like become Mr. Rogers. Like he comes, everyone tunes in at 11 o'clock on the TV. He walks out of his door. He puts on his very calming Prime Minister voice and tells us to follow the rules, and then it's become. But I mean, I think the society here appreciate that versus what obviously we're seeing, below us right now with Donald Trump. But yeah, I have to say, folks, I mean, not that anyone might care listening to this or watching this, but the healthcare people right now it was unbelievable. I had to take my daughter to the children's hospital yesterday. We actually traveled to England and got back on March 6th, and she had a nasty cough and a fever for going on about 15 days, and she got screened and it was negative, but this wasn't going away and she was vomiting. So I said, enough's enough. We got to figure this out. And they were unbelievable. Like the operation that they've got in play there, like you get screened before you even walk through the door. They decide whether you can go in or out. And then from there, it was just like clockwork. And fortunately for us, my oldest, my 6-year-old, has pneumonia. I say fortunately, it's crazy that we say that, right now. Fortunately, she has pneumonia and not other things, but she's now got the antibiotics. And I was just really impressed with the way that those people are carrying themselves. And more importantly, like it was very apparent. They're obviously worried about the physical well-being, but they took a lot of time to ask them some, checking in on our mental well-being as well, which I found, very, very interesting. And I actually tried to flip the question. I was like, how are you guys doing? Like, you're living this.
Yeah, I can imagine them.
Yeah.
Yeah, mental well-being is quite important in all of this, I guess, because if you read everything that's in the news and watch everything in the news, you just go crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hats off to them, because I can't imagine. I mean,
good.
It's crazy. Yeah. Anything else, gents? It's good chat, by the way.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
I think what I'm going to do is I'll communicate how I've done some communication stuff with my coaches this week. And it's just basically guidelines for session design, because we still have teams training. I'm going to translate it tonight, and I'll send it over to you guys, and you can add it in on this.
Brilliant. That'd be great. Yeah, really appreciate that.
And what I suggest, sorry, Britton?
I was going to say, kind of my takeaways here are, we need to create some kind of game. That's that's my takeaway. You got to find a way to, to create interaction, almost for there to be a score. And I don't know what medium that takes place in, or what forum it takes place in, but I think that's the major takeaway. I'm going to try to wrap my head around that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, when you figure that out, present it.
Got it, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that, are we going to do this next week as well on Wednesday?
Yeah, we should. We should keep it regular. We'll check in again. What I'll do as well is, I don't know if anyone is interested in some of the stuff we were chatting about, but I'll put links into the forum provider that we were using. And then if people want to use it and do stuff with their teams, then you don't have to Google it. They can just access it through a link that we'll put at the bottom. Mark, if you obviously send that info, we'll link that as well.
Well, are you okay for doing this next week?
What's that?
Are you okay for doing this next week?
Yeah, think so.
I'll try and get one more person involved, will I?
Yeah, we can have as many on here as possible. I mean,
yeah, I'll try and see if I get one if you want to go. I'm thinking maybe next week what I'd like to do is kind of go back to some very clear discussions in these uncertain times. But I'd like to look at challenging traditional planning paradigms that are used in coach education.
Cool, that'd be fun.
The sessions, the planning session paradigm, challenging.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
So I'd like to discuss that.
Cool,
great.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great. And I read both your articles there, Mark. They were very fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, enjoyed that.
So about the Newtonian paradigm.
Yeah. It's just so funny how we just normalize something, and it's got the historical nature of it just sticks, and we just refuse to let it go.
Beliefs.
Yeah.
And inertia. Yeah.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, listen, I appreciate your time. Stay safe.
Hope your kids get better soon, Mike.
Yeah, Britton, I hope you sell your TV.
I can't wait for next week. What we should do, we can have a competition. If you can remember everything Britton had in the room and anything new he adds in next week, you win a prize.
That's right.
Yeah. You can notice what doesn't belong. Good luck with that.
All right, guys.
All right. Take care. Bye.